Coldy.
Oh no, keep going.
I was gonna say my sons call me Goldilocks now because
Because
I won't jump in the lake because it's too day. I mean, I will, but I don't hang out there too long swimming around. I'm like, all right, I'm getting out of here. This is getting too cold for me. So like Goldilocks getting out again, Goldilocks. You
this is
freaking
a great
knucklehead.
introduction to the. Oh, we got the thumbs up. All right,
Yeah.
Eric Reynolds, welcome back to the Primal Foundations podcast. Uh, it's great to see you at Hack Your Health. You were literally the first person I saw as soon as I walked through the door.
Oh, how cool is that?
Yeah, and I was just like, it is cool to see people at the convention that, I've had on the podcast or you follow, and I'm just, we're hugging, like let's take pictures, whatever. And I was joking with everybody. I'm like, dude, Eric is like the mayor of Hack Your Health. You're rubbing elbows with everybody. That was great. I still got my keto 50 coin here.
There you go.
Keep that with me. Yeah, is that your second or third time to that event?
That was my first one at
Oh, that was your
the.
first one?
Yeah, I've been to like Low Carb USA or Society and Metabolic Health type of events, but that was my first travel and go type of show. And it was fantastic. My buddy Greg he's the RV carnivore, and I'm into camping. We're both retired cops, and he was like, "Dude, you got to come to Austin, check it out." And obviously, him having the trailer was a perfect, that's my path with my what I'm doing right now with cops and campers and the Keto 50 side of things. So I was right at home. Here I am camping at a freaking event, in a weird way, psychologically. And then, you're seeing all your heroes and even people that recognize you that you don't know. And it's just, and you could feel the energy there, right? Just everybody feeling good. That's kind of how society should be, right? On a normal day, but
Yeah.
you get back out there and then you feel this, oh, you're back out there with the rest of the herd that's kind of sucking in life. So yeah, it was fantastic. I mean, I'm going to one in Tampa. I'm already trying to arrange a basketball game with we're gonna get Dr. Baker, we're gonna get Benazzati, play some hoops. Hey, we're just
Baker's trying to dunk, right?
yeah, you're not gonna dunk on me. No kidding. Now next thing you know, he dunks on me. I'll be like, oh, I'm a meme now.
Okay. Well, for
So
some of the listeners that don't know, Eric served as a police officer for Boynton Beach Police Department in South Florida. Wooed into line of duty in 2012, suffered from metabolic disease and PTSD. Later in life, Eric discovered ketogenic and carnivore lifestyle, and he's been helping educate others in exercise and nutrition with his company, Keto 50, and his retreat program, Cops and Campers, which I'm super excited to talk about today. And you can check out Eric's first appearance on episode 3 of the Primal Foundations podcast off air. I was like, episode 3, you're an OG, man. You're from the original.
yeah, I know. I was looking through it yesterday, and it's only been like a year ago, man. You're doing great big things, man. I'm like
Uh,
looking at all your guests. I'm like, look at this guy. Soon he's gonna have us in studio in the Primal Foundation studio, right?
oh my gosh. We were joking around the other day. I had some friends on. We did like a strength, talk about strength training. And my one buddy's like, where am I meeting you for this? I'm like, on Zoom, bro. And I was like thinking, I was like, he thinks we're gonna meet at like a podcast studio because that's what he sees. He thinks we're in podcast studios, and I was like, actually, there's some in Chicago. You could just rent them out and just do that. So we might do one, but we'll see. I
Yeah.
mean, that's pretty glitzy.
Bring your gear to Hack Your Health in Tampa, and you can knock out a whole couple months of material right there, man.
Seriously, there was somebody doing that actually. They were interviewing. They had it as a piece of the you of like the schedule. Like you could just go sit there and watch. I forgot who it was. It was like Sean Baker and everybody else.
Yeah.
They were getting interviewed, and you could just sit there and watch. But that's a great idea.
Yeah, I'm trying to do that at my cops and campers rally, get some law enforcement podcasts there that can come out and talk to the guys and not just to get material, of course, but it's therapeutic for everybody. And sometimes you get a guy on there you don't think he's gonna talk, and now he's like me, Mr. Chatterbox that won't shut up, but that's therapy for them. So yeah, I think that's a great idea. But yeah, 12 years as a well, almost 20 years as a cop, led to a lot of metabolic disease and PTS they call it. It's not really disorder anymore, so we're trying to change the terminology of it, because your body's doing what's naturally supposed to do when you're stressed out and you get in that hypervigilant mode. You're supposed to be in that flight or fight situation, but we're just in it all the time, and that's where the damage comes, even with a good diet. I was lucky enough to discover the keto way of eating for like my last year on the job,
Hmm.
but before that, I was 250 pounds, the whole story of losing 80 pounds, doing keto carnivore, and then my mind getting better. So yeah, I mean, when you said that 2012, I was like, holy cow, man, that shooting's 12 years ago, and it's still hits home.
Yeah.
It's still there.
Yeah, and if you wouldn't mind, I know we covered it a little bit in episode 3, but if you can share with the listeners just a brief kind of description of that day.
Yeah.
And then also, but the biggest piece that I want to talk about is following up after the event. How did you, what was the processes to recover, not only but physically, but mentally as well?
Yeah, in 2012, I was just regular road patrol at that point. I had my eyes on being a sergeant one day, so I had to go the FTO route. And bank robber in another town robbed a bank, happened to be coming through our town, and we got into a car chase. That guy crashes, opens his door when we're covering the car, and he starts firing his gun at us. I got hit in the foot, left foot, and my leg. It was a graze on the right leg, kind of Trump style. And I guess we can use that now.
Yeah.
And it was we ended up shooting, killing the bad guy. So, there was a lot of things going on at that time. We're heroes, or officers of the month. We get Washington D.C. has us up there for National Police Week. So I mean, you're really getting the fruits of this battle that you went through, right? And after that, the stuff starts to creep in. You start worrying about the job, your family, everywhere you go, active shooters, school shoot, it just starts to be a lot, and over that time I gained a lot of weight. I was stressed out. I wasn't able to eat. I wasn't eating properly, drinking a lot more. Just my habits were kind of bad, even though I was working out, and that day of my shooting I was actually going to go play basketball that day, and it never happened. So I always stayed active, was still gaining weight, still depressed on the way I looked, didn't understand it, like, man, I'm trying to watch what I'm eating. I'm trying to work out. I'm trying to manage the stress. A couple things happened. I battled workers' comp for therapy for the PTS part of it. I was letting them know I had some issues, and, it wasn't like I was hiding or cowering underneath my desk. I was going to be over aggressive, and I had a feeling I was going to end up popping somebody in a close call situation, not just shooting anybody out of the blue, but I had a couple of close calls pulling guns on guys that were unarmed but weren't doing what we said, and reaching and reaching for their IDs, and stuff that you could have articulated in a good shoot, but that was on my subconscious about shooting a guy that was unarmed and just built. So I battled workers comp, got the therapy I needed from a regular psychologist. I didn't go to psychiatrists to get freaking pills. I needed to talk. I needed to get this stuff out, and within this world, there is a little community of cops that do that. I'm just trying to spread it more, obviously, with my Cops and Campers initiative. But at this point, no, this I'm not even camping. I never even towed a trailer in my life at this point. I'm just trying to figure out what's going on with me, and is this something I'm always going to have, right? And my therapist pretty much told me I got to dance with it. You got to learn how to manage it. It's not going away, and there's a reason why you're feeling like this, with your central nervous system taking over in moments like that. So I had to come to grips with that. I'm like, all right, this is my body's natural reaction to, fight or flight. And it stays there, and you got to work on these things. So Dr. David Diamond, the cholesterol god, the LDL god, he helped me get some therapy, art therapy at the University of South Florida. I went through a session working on the frontal lobe, pushing a lot of trauma back. There's different things you can do. Meditation, obviously, changing your diet was probably the biggest thing for me. When I got off the processed foods, started eating more nutritious foods, I changed up my habits a little bit, walking more, just keeping my body active, got, a step counter, kind of watching how many steps I took a day, had a goal, 10,000, whatever the factory standard was at that point. And things just started to happen. I started losing weight through the ketogenic way and started feeling better about it. And it empowered me to help other cops and guys in my department. You lose 50 pounds at a department, they either think you're getting divorced, you're sick, or you're freaking something else is up, So I was like, no, man, I'm not getting divorced. I'm not sick. I was sick. I'm getting healthier by what I'm eating, which is mind blowing because I was a novice. I could write a search warrant. I could arrest you and write it to where it's a civil lawful arrest, but I didn't know how to read my blood work, you know. I didn't know how to read the back of a label, nutrition label. Sorry, there's a guy cruising by with a lawnmower. Camp a light for you. So
Camping life.
yeah.
Yeah.
So as that's starts to happen, you start looking at different parts of your life. Like, do I really need this job for a long period of time, or can I retire early and kind of just change the direction we want to go? And my wife was like, let's minimize, let's sell our house, let's get a truck and trailer, and let's travel the country. And you don't have to be a cop anymore if you don't want. And that was like, wow, that was like a life preserve at that point, because usually you stay in it. You're like, oh, I got to stay 5 years for the drop, or I'm leaving too much money on the table, or I got kids in college. I got two young kids. I mean, people are thinking I'm stupid to leave that job with young kids. But when you don't have that, I don't have a mortgage. So think about that money if you don't have a mortgage, right? And you're traveling the country using that money for traveling, and other expenses. Yeah, I'm not rolling in it. Don't get me wrong, the way the economy's gone the last 4 years and in the tubes, but it changed my mindset. It gave me more strength, and I was empowered to change my life more in a weird way. And I don't think I would have done that before unless I changed my diet. So
Yeah.
all that shit was happening, man.
You had how much weight did you got diagnosed with heart disease, and I think that was one of like the kind of bigger factors of looking for change. You do ketogenic, you find carnivore. How much weight did you lose at total?
Overall, it was 80 pounds. I got up to
Eight.
around 253, and then I lost like 10 pounds on my own, old style, watch what you're eating, work out a lot, and then I was stuck, man. And a guy I played basketball with said keto, and I say this all the time. I thought it was something painful that you got to do like cross training or something, because I never heard of it. It's just a shame. Here I am, 49 years old, never heard of this way of eating ever. It's always been the other way. Bad is bad, all that stuff, all that propaganda. So yeah, man, changing the way I was eating was just like, and I saw myself losing 2 pounds. I did my little carb manager. I want to lose, stay under 30 grams of carbs. That was my target. Stay under 30. I know people do 20 and less than, but 30 worked for me. I could go a little bit over it, a little bit under it. And it was 2 pounds, like every 2 weeks I could see it. Because I didn't weigh myself every day. I said, all right, you're only going to weigh yourself every 2 weeks. It was 2 pounds, 2 pounds, 2 pounds. I remember I got pictures of the scale all the way down like 218. And I'm like, holy cow, and then it was 50 pounds in 6 months. And
Wow.
it was like, and I went from a size 44 to a 36-inch waist, man, which I hadn't seen 36, which is still big for a guy that's 6 foot tall. I mean, I was still my stomach was still too big. But now I'm at 33. Carnivore took the last 25 pounds off. That just shook it loose, like get rid of this stuff. But yeah, man, what an amazing journey to get to this weight at 180 pounds that I haven't been since seventh grade. And it's mind blowing. It's like my wife's married to a new guy. She jokes around like I traded him in and got a younger, like they
Got a
upgraded me.
got a upgraded model. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I grew
it's
my hair out, got a beard. I mean, I'm totally different. I walk by cops I used to work with. I'll see them at like a Whole Foods down in Palm Beach where I go back home. And they're not cops I'm buddies with, but I know them from my department, and I'm like, they don't even recognize me, dude. They don't. And I work with these people for years. They don't even notice.
Yeah,
Pretty
it's
wild.
this type of eat, like you said, like I wish I would have known about this earlier. Like we're finding this out later because we've been basically lied to for so
Totally
many
like it.
years, I mean, I went to school to be in physical education. Like I'm a teacher, and I sat in the classes and we went through like fat is bad for you. Like you have to be in this major calorie deficit and blah 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 blah. And all the stuff that I've learned in college, I've just literally thrown out the door. Even in my master's classes, I have a master's degree. I throw it out the door. And, for people like you, and it's super common that anybody that's in these high stress jobs, we're talking cops, firefighters, dispatch, traffic controllers, right? They they seek out lots of food as a coping mechanism for their job, typically fast food, comfort foods. And then, that's like on shift. Off shift, you're getting overuse of alcohol, amongst other things. which typically turns into you eating bad anyways. Do you
Yeah.
think that's like very common for people in those professions?
Yeah, I mean, we're taught, right, when we're young, you get hurt, oh, let's get some ice cream. Every holiday is surrounded by toxic candy and sweets and high carbohydrate, food. So that reward system starts young. I mean, you go to any grocery store, all the candy's eye level for the kids, you know. So even as adults, what do? If we're stressed out, we have a drink, uh, you start munching. That's how we've been taught to handle stress, and it's backwards. I mean, it's profitable, of course, that's what they target you for, but getting outside, walking around, meditation, swimming, cold plunging, whatever you're doing to get the body moving, it's so much better off as therapy, but nobody's taught that. You don't see it on TV. You don't see an argument between two people. The guy's like, I'm going out, and he goes gets drunk at the bar. He doesn't go out for a walk and then sit in a park stretching. You don't
Yeah,
see stuff like that.
grounding with his shoes off, in nature.
Yeah, and I didn't know how to do that. I still take walks, and it's usually because I'm just like, plus we live in a trailer and things get cramped sometimes. So, once in a while you just need to get out. And my boys are growing. I know last time we talked about our with kids and nutrition and stuff, and they're still flying high, man. My kids are such little warriors for the future of what we're doing. Like you're like 20 years younger than me, and you're already freaking ahead of the game. And think about the people we're going to impact that are younger, like our kids. We have a whole nother wave of us coming that are going to have a lot more power and influence in this field. Because I think all those people should go to jail. Everybody in FDA, and it's not because of the COVID bullshit. It's because of what they've done to us and approved the toxic food that they're feeding us. These people should go to jail. They falsified reports. They falsify studies. They get bribes. That happened to me as a cop. I'd be in federal prison you know? And
Yeah.
these people are appointed, what I'm saying? It's so corrupt. And I hope if we do get a change in administration, that we need people like us on those boards. We don't need these other freaking politicians and lobbyists. It's insane the amount of connections that they have with each other. What would I sell? I
Hmm.
wouldn't sell any. I'd be maybe beef farms, which is a staple of the American culture, right? And I don't know, man. I'm getting more and more aggravated with what's going on with our agencies that are regulating us, and it's even affecting donations. I mean, oh, there's been a crisis somewhere. What do we send those people? We send them shit, poison. Oh, we're so humanity friendly, and then we get them hooked on the poison. I don't see a bunch of cattle showing up out there and sheep ready for slaughter. Never see that stuff, man. So yeah, I'm gonna up the aggressiveness on some of the. I'm going to start doing a little more research. I'm going to get more involved in that side of things because it's really pissing me off. It really is.
It's kind of a shame that we're Joe Schmoes, right? We're just regular people,
Right.
and we're the ones that are like trying to push this along and get in people's ears about it. And it's like, oh well, this person has a nutritional degree and blah blah blah. That's like the worst thing, It's like I'd prefer somebody that didn't and that combed through. Yeah, research is great, but at the end of the day, I was talking like everybody. I just had Anthony Chafee on, and we talked about nutritional studies, and I'm like, are they even like trustworthy? He's like, no, they're not. He talked about how like Coca-Cola spends 11 times more money on food research than the National Institute of Health. 11 times the amount. And I'm like, what are we doing? Like we can't rely on this stuff. And everybody asks about carnivore and keto like, well, that's, I've read this study. It's actually unhealthy, but like, dude, bullshit, man. Like stepping in the shoes of people that had autoimmune issues, who were overweight, addicted to food, that went to this diet and feel tremendous. And there's no medication, there's no extra hospital visits, there's no other bullshit you need to buy. You just got to eat meat and like eat whole foods. That's it.
Yeah.
It's simple stuff. Um, but the I want to talk about too is when you're transitioning, you're doing carnivore and all those things, you lose all the weight, you're feeling great, you're looking great, you're working out. Have you stuck with the same like vision of carnivore or ketogenic throughout, or have you like changed throughout the years?
Oh, I've definitely, I started off pretty much, I was a keto boy. I had always a lot more meat in the recipe when I was doing like, I was doing cauliflower and hamburger casserole or something. Instead of a pound of meat, I'd put 2 pounds in there. I was like, I just need, I'm working out, whatever. I didn't understand that it was, it was just better off to do that anyways. But yeah, eating that way. And I'm sorry, what was your first question before I got sidetracked on cauliflower
No,
meat?
no, like so when you started, you're doing, keto and
Oh
then you
yeah,
kind of
mixing it up.
transition to carnivore. Is it like, because I feel like there are, as people go through carnivore or transition to carnivore, they'll be like super strict and then they'll start kind of changing their diet a little bit. And I have too super recently of changing like how much fat I'm eating and protein and just the way my body is a little bit different or with the diet. Some people are doing lion and that's it. That's the only way. And some people allow different things in the diet.
Yeah, my kid, being having a 12 and 8-year-old sons that are active doesn't mean they need carbs, but my wife comes from the Mediterranean type of living, and so she's okay with olives and like, cucumbers and avocados and some basmati rice and maybe there's some cassava pasta she'll make. So homemade sourdough bread, 3 ingredients. She'll do stuff. So I have dabbled in that, over the time. I don't do it every day, of course. And it's like fake filling. It's like you're full for a second, but just like Chinese food, right? We talked about last time, you just get hungry again. So the only thing I realize that the deep down like sugar addiction that's to the core is something like almond butter. I think it goes back to peanut butter as a kid because I ate a ton of peanut butter, like most of the kids in the 80s, if not later on. I just know that was a go-to meal. Imagine that was my meal with white bread, right? Ugh. And jelly. Let's put some more shit on. Sometimes I didn't have jelly, I put syrup. Oh my. So yeah, it was peanut butter is still the thing, like Reese's peanut butter cups. That's the stuff I would, what is it? Jason's little Reese's, sometimes we got those fake
Yeah.
Reese's
That
peanut. I
they're the healthy version. Yeah.
yeah, I would grab those. And I liked fat bombs in the beginning when I was doing the keto way of eating. I liked that little treat that wasn't poisoning me. So I did get into that routine. I do like a little stevia in my coffee. So I still have that little bit of a sweet tooth. You mean a cop for 20 years, Dunkin' Donuts. What do you think? We're, extra cream and sugar, and then man, it's real, and I try to tell people when I talk to them, I go, it's not your fault, bro. This stuff's been tested on like rats and stuff to make it more addicting than you realize. And you can even almost help yourself sometimes, you're fighting it, and yeah, I the almond butter, I'd still drink vodka as my drink of choice with sparkling water or something like that. I tried to get obviously no aspartame or any of that stuff in the fake sparkling water. But that's pretty much the most I ever did. If I went out with buddies, had chicken wings and they had some potatoes or fries or some, yeah, I grab some of them. But now that I'm really understanding my, with the heart disease and we were discussing earlier, my CAC score being so high and some of the other heavy metal testings and mycotoxins that I tested for, I'm really cutting out a lot of that stuff from alcohol to the random meal that I'd have out, even if it's chicken wings, because you know what they're frying that in. So
Yeah.
I'm really
And
just trying to take a control this for a little bit, and I have another series of tests coming up in August and January. So I'm just let's see how we go.
yeah, so let's get into that. So
Yeah.
you got a CAC score. Can you kind of explain like what that is about and kind of where you uh placed on this kind of this test?
Yeah, so it's a coronary artery calcium test, pretty much. They're seeing how much calcium is deposited in I guess your arteries and all that. So I didn't know a lot about it, but in 2019, when I'm battling my doctor about LDL and I've already lost 40 pounds, and he's like, well, your cholesterol is still high. The same thing we've heard 1,000 times, right? It might as well be like CNN repeating the same message, right? So it he was like, well, let's send you for this CAC score. I'm like, or a CAC test, I'm like, what's that? Well, it measures, the plaque in your arteries. And if you're good to go on that, you don't have to worry about the statin. Because I was fighting him on statins. Thank you to Dr. Barry. That was my guy. And then it led down to Dr. Diamond. That was my path, those two. And I went, got it done. And I didn't know much. I read about it. I saw the high score 400, and zero, and then all this debate. Oh my God, I'm freaking out because I got a seven. So my test came back at that time at 1500, like 1530 or something. And my primary doctor calls me freaking out. Oh my God, I got to get you into my buddy. He's a cardiologist. Don't worry, he takes care of you cops. He's a good guy, but that old thing. And he vouched for him. So luckily I already read about statins and, they were talking, they want to put stents in me, dude. I was asymptomatic. I had nothing going on. They're already ready to go, right? So talk to the cardiologist. He didn't like my opinion of stuff because I came in with information. He wasn't rude, but he thought statins were the savior. Oh, it curves heart attacks since 1990. Look at the statistics. I'm like, look at the statistics of freaking type 2 diabetes and kidney disease. That stuff's just hammering you for what? 4 days? Is that what Dr. Malhotra said? You get 4 days after taking that toxins for all that your life. You're gonna get 4 days out of it. Thanks. So man, 1500 was quite scary though, because it does creep in there. You're like, oh my God. And then I did the MESA score, which is you put in your HDL and all your numbers, and it came back with me having a 9% chance of having a heart episode in the next 10 years. Well, what's that? Is that a heart attack? Is it a stroke? Is it, oh my God, I got chest pains, or is it death? I mean, you don't know. But and my doctor's telling me you're 9%, that's pretty high. I'm like, yeah, but it's 91%. I'm not, right?
Well, Doc, 91 the other way.
Yeah, I mean,
We're looking at it wrong.
when we're talking stats, all right, let's look at the other side. He's like, yeah, unless you're 1 in 9. I go, but I don't plan on being 1 in 9. I mean, right? So I walked away from that test. I never did it again. I heard people getting their CAC scores at different health events, it's 400. I'm like, dude, I'm 1500. I'm still walking around. Well, this last January, I was in Boca Raton at an event, and I was talking with Dr. Filippo Vadia, and then also Ben Azadi, and they were talking about somebody had reduced their calcium score. Like, what? You reduced it? And they go, have you had one done in a while? And I was like, no, it's been 5 years. I've been pretty much carnivore. And they were almost licking their chops, wondering what my score would be. Because here you got a test subject that's never had statins, asymptomatic, and pretty much eating a diet that I can actually record and write down because I know what I've been eating. And they were like, we should get it done. So went and got it done. And then I get a call from Dr. Avadia, and he's like, yeah, your score is 4,000. I think it's 4,148, 4148.
Wow.
And he's like, that's a bit high. I go, yeah, you think it just tripled on carnivore? I go, is that so? I mean, what's going on? So one of the things they didn't know was when I started carnivore and I lost that last 25 pounds, was I still healing the soft plaque and the calcified plaque? Was I still going through that transition? And then after 5 years, I'm just stable right now. We don't know if it's really progressed year to year because we don't have the year-to-year test. We only have a 5-year gap. What I got super healthy and all my numbers went up. So it looks like scar tissue in a weird way that this whole area just, I don't know. I feel like I'm thing from the four superheroes. That guy was just all stone. I feel like my insider just freaking
The
rich
thing.
solid right now. Yeah, the thing. And yeah, I mean, all we're looking, he's trying to figure out what would be causing the additional calcium to keep going up. What could be causing it? So then we went down the road of heavy metal testings and mold testing. He says a lot of his cardiac patients have tested high in mold. All right, let's do the mold test. And also seeing a homeopathic doctor at the same time doing tests. Because I like to do both sides of it. I don't just go one way of thinking. I like to explore my options. And this has to do with like the acupuncture world, where your body's all connected and there's all kinds of different things, therapies you can do. So I get the metal test done, and I'm super high off the charts in mercury, arsenic, and aluminum. Now, aluminum could be many things. It's in our food. It's in the air when they're spraying us. It's in our deodorants. I think it's deodorant because I was a heavy right guard guy, all in the 80s. That's what it was. We used that toxic shit. The arsenic, I think, is the brown rice and all the breads I had in my life. It's always in that stuff. Everything you eat, fast food especially. They use the cheap shit. And then mercury I was a little shocked, but it turns out my 6 mercury fillings that I had in my mouth were leaching into my body. I went and saw a biodentist and he looked at it. Of course, he's going to say, yeah, you go to a mechanic, they're going to find a problem. You go to a colonoscopy, they're going to say, oh, well, we had to snip a couple things. Good thing you came in. They're never going to tell you didn't need the procedure, right? So I'm always like, this guy really knows what he's talking about. And he did. He was like, man, this stuff's poisoning you slowly. It's connected to your brain, and then, we've already discussed the PTSD stuff. So I'm like, well, maybe this will help. Of course, they don't cover that shit with dentistry bills and all that, and removing the work that they did. But, anyways, it's Civil War type of dentistry. It's old school. They use the mercury because after you leave, it's still a little bit soft and your bite can correct itself naturally without having to go back for repeat visits, and no, he took them out, man. And now, I had mentioned earlier, oh, I didn't tell you, I'd also tested positive for Lyme, even though it wasn't active. And I think the low carb way of eating, keeping, my symptoms low, or, all the signs of it was keeping it down. And my son had gone through it. That's why I was kind of thinking, all right, we know the low carb way of eating is working. So I get all, right when I got to Austin is when I had the mercury taken out. So I was like, wow, this is, man, my teeth are normal. I don't have this, metal sticking out of my mouth. But things started happening, man. I felt myself detoxing, because I got one of the MTHFR genes, and I have a problem at times, I think, with methylation. Not 100%, but detoxing and also absorption. And it could be blockage in my lymph nodes. I mean, this is going off the rails on deeper stuff that I didn't know until I went on this path. I thought keto, carnivore saved my life. Body will fix itself. But 50 years of poisoning yourself, there is some issues that come along the way. Your body's not operating optimal, and there's things you got to do, detoxing. So we're doing all this crazy stuff as a family, trying to loosen up the lymph nodes. But my right knee swelled up out of nowhere, dude. Like I didn't hurt it. It's been like 6 weeks now. I've been battling, and the Lyme's active now. And I think the detox and all this stuff that's going on, I mentioned the heavy mold testing. I tested really high in that. So I'm detoxing from mold. Where you get mold from? Well, food you eat has mold, your environment. My vest I wore for 20 years was moldy as heck in South Florida. They make you wear polyester, So I was a petri dish all those years, and old police car, old police department, all of our houses probably are high in mold in South Florida. They're not going to go tell you that. So yeah, it really opened my eyes to a lot more of the environmental toxins that are out there. And I thought it was good, but someone's making that calcium score go up, or at least made it go up over 4,000, which is just, I'm part, Facebook has a group for everything, right? I'm part of the high CAC club.
The
And
high
the
cat
amount of
club.
people, yeah, the amount of people that are on statins or they're all talking the wrong information. I'll throw my story out. I don't preach to them. I'm just, hey, this is my story. Just hopefully they read it and it opens their eyes to other way of doing things. That the CAC score is not a death sentence. There's a guy on there 7,500. He's in the 70s. Like, yeah, I'm so active, paddleboarding. Hey, so just because of the high CAC score, it's not a death sentence. I don't think I'm never going to get it down to zero. I'm never going to get down to 400. If anything, it may go up every year a little bit because of the healing that's going on. We don't know. There's not 54-year-old guys walking around with 4,000 CAC scores that haven't been touched by modern medicine.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
Uh,
interesting my path to see where I'm going to end up. I mean, hopefully I make it. My thing now is the highest CAC score, or the CAC score being 400 or over 4,000. My now rate of having a heart episode in the next 10 years, according to their scale, is 30% now. So they have it in their tools that they use to diagnose you, the ability to tell you you're still sick. You know what I'm saying? They're going to come back and say, well, Eric, you're still over 4,000. What are you going to do? Prescribe me a statin? What are you going to do? Open heart surgery? When I'm running around, I'm still living my life. I mean, I'm what
uh,
they call a paradox. They can't explain it, even though they can, because it's healthy living, de-stressing environment,
yeah. It's it's very difficult when going through like these types of things because similar thing. I was doing a lot of training. I got an adjustment. I was doing like triathlons, Ironman, whatever, and I got an adjustment because my hip was kind of clicking or whatever. Wasn't super bad, but it was irritating. I got an adjustment. I just do my hip popped, bow, and I just like, oh my god, this feels so good. I felt great, and then the whole entire week, the next, I don't know, 6 days, I could barely walk. I couldn't walk. I was like, shit. I'm like, I was training hard. I had a detour from my training. I got the Ironman coming up. I'm like, oh my God. I was limping for 6 days. I called um the chiropractor. I was like, hey man, like my hip is still hurting. Like, and I called him before telling how much pain I was. He's like, call me back in a couple days if it's still there. Go in there, and he's like, yeah, there's something up. We gotta get you to have an MRI. I gotta send your MRI stuff to this hip doctor at Rush Hospital. He's like the number one hip surgeon. It's like, okay, do the MRI. He's like, yeah, you got a torn labrum. He's like, you got to go to surgery to like now. And I was like, okay. And I started doing some research. I met with the guy. He's like, yeah, we got to schedule for surgery like within the next couple weeks. And I was like, fuck. I'm like, I can't believe I'm about to have hip surgery. So I start Googling some stuff before I went in there. And I found that even though they see in the MRI that it's a torn, there's like a dark spot where my labrum's torn. Most of the time, that labrum is that dark spot is from the MRI. So people go to get these things done, and a doctor, like you said, they would open them up. There's a labrum, it's there. They might repair a few things, but it's still there, and they'll close you up and they won't tell you anything different. And then I asked the guy, I go, so if I get this surgery, I'm gonna be okay. Like I'll never have hip pain again. He goes, oh, you'll have like a 75% chance higher of dislocating your hip after this. I go, but I'm not dislocating my hip now. Why do I need surgery? I'm squatting, I'm running, I'm having a little issue now. And I literally just like never went back. They want to schedule me like, come, you're gonna have surgery in 2 weeks. I was like, and I never went back. And my hip's fine. It hurts a little bit every now and again, but I'm like, dude, I'm living my life. You're living your life. You're able to do things and not have restriction. Why the hell do we need to have surgery if we're not restricted? It's crazy.
Yeah, even Dr. Chaffee said, well, just don't run any marathons. Sprints are okay for you. So I do think about, I've always hated long distance running anyways, like these triathlon stuff that you guys do, screw that. I'll run after somebody. I'll run after a ball, when you want to play some sports, soccer, basketball, but just running for no reason. Oh, that's the worst to me. I mean, maybe it's all the football days of us running gassers all the time, when we got in trouble and stuff, but yeah, I mean, it's changed. I'm not gonna lie, it's changed my workout habits a little bit. I'm not pushing myself, make my heart pound as much because sometimes I'll be at whatever Planet Fitness or 24-hour fit, whatever I am, because we travel. So, I'm always in a different gym. I should do reviews. Hey, you guys out there. But I'll start looking like, where's the AED in this motherfucker? Because like I have
Just in
some
case.
idea, like, hey, it's over there. It's like fall, which is not going to happen that way. But I don't know. It's definitely creeped in. It dropped the seed in there. And it's a procedure that if I never had done, even in 2019, I wouldn't know, and would it matter? Would it really matter in my life right now? And that's when I retired in 2019. I was getting all the tests done, like that test done, and the next one up was the colonoscopy. And I started doing what you did. I started reading about it. I'm like, well, if you're eating a pretty healthy diet and real food, you shouldn't be building up any cancer or any of those polyps or whatever. And then I started reading about the injuries and some of the complications and then the cleaning procedures. And I was like, that's it. I'm canceled. I'm not doing it. So I said, I haven't done it. You're like, really? Guys are getting it done at like 40. What's next? You'll be 20 years old getting your freaking pipes clean. It's like, geez, come on, guys. I mean,
Yeah.
there's other ways to do it besides we have so many procedures in this country. It's insane. And I just look at myself, all my procedures, from injuries that maybe, broken bones is different than, you got a rash on your elbow, your arm or something. And then doctors never look at what's coming up from the inside of your body. So yeah, it's been amazing, dude, to be this weight, even though I've got the hard stuff. That's probably the 20 years of listening to that radio. And every time there's an alert tone, your heart stops because you don't know there's a dead baby, bank robber, dead, a cop in a shooting that needs backup. It takes its toll, man. I don't think we should be cops longer than 20 years because guys are holding on and they end up dying anyways after they retire because of all that stress.
There's a big statistic about that people, once they leave, a few years after retirement, they'll have a heart attack or an episode.
And they always say it's because you have nothing to do. No, it's because of the freaking stress that you put on your body for all those years. And maybe you're trying to do stuff that you're not used to. Yeah, that leads to it. But you got your diet under control and you're able to manage your stress, I mean, even that 20 years is enough. Because my kids, I can't even tell them cop stories when I'm not being tied to a tragedy. Everything's like a funny, oh yeah, Murphy slipped over here on the dead body, kicked the head because the guy got run over by a train or something, right? And the kids are like, guy got run over by a train? I'm like, oh yeah, and then you're like, oh yeah, why did that guy get run over? Oh yeah, he was addicted to freaking painkillers that were prescribed by who? His doctor, right? So it just, I mean, I'm so far down the rabbit hole with the pharmaceutical companies, I'll probably disappear one day, but they're an organized cartel. Totally, they go out there and pump their business just like a regular drug dealer would, and unfortunately, and all the people I meet in my camping travels, all these retired first responders and military guys, I can't even tell you if I say how many people are on medication.
Yeah.
Everybody's raising their hands, sometimes two hands. Jeez. People.
The amount of pills that my mother takes, she's had a thyroid taken out. My dad and my stepdad both had, they both went in to get stints. My dad
Mhm.
was a firefighter. My stepdad was a sergeant for police department. Both went to get stints. And as soon as this is it's very scary when they go into surgery and the doctor comes out in like 20 minutes. You're like, shit. Like, oh, like this is supposed to be hours long. I'm like, dude, if the doctor's coming out, something's wrong. Like, yeah, we like went up there, through the leg, looked at the artery. It's too much of a buildup. Like, right. Same thing happened with both of them. They're like, we're prepping them from surgery for another day. They're going to have bypasses. So they both had bypasses and they both lost weight after the fact, doing the physical therapy. Their, their diet was better. I still disagree with what the doctors were prescribing them, like oatmeal, orange juice in the morning. You know what I'm saying? Like, chicken breast, vegetables, like nothing fatty whatsoever. I was like, this is the shit that kind of got you here. So why are you still doing it? But whatever. They lost weight, but they both ballooned back up. They're both, if not as heavy or heavier than they were before the heart surgery. And it just and the doctor, where's the doctor? Who's helping them with lifestyle? And I can talk to my dad till I'm blue in the face. He says I'm on the unhealthy diet. He goes, "How's that unhealthy diet going?" I'm like, "Dude, I'm great. I feel great. I feel better now in my 30s than my 20s." But he just can't get over that aspect. And the doctors don't care about lifestyle. They only care about, can I prescribe you this? Can I give you this pamphlet? I'll see you in 2 months. Like, that's not helping.
Yeah, it's
So
a racket. Everything's a little bit of a racket. They get you in the system. It's like, your oil change. They're always going to say you need something else, right? Oh, you
yeah,
need to change that cabin filter, or you need to, it's always something, always trying to get some money out of you. I hate it. I know these guys are smart guys and ladies, of course, but ugh, they just been, I say this to my wife. I go, trying to tell people about the way we eat and how they've been lied to is really like trying to tell them to change their religion,
yeah,
right? It's just so indoctrinating them that they just can't imagine that they've been played and lied to like this. And they have. It's amazing. Like, oh my goodness, do you not see the death and destruction going around us with our youth? With you mentioned having Dr. Kiltz at my Cops and Campers event, the fertility issues that we have going around. I mean, come on, people, but this isn't the message that gets put out there, it's a grassroots movement, seed by seed, and eventually maybe we'll be able to shake it up, man. But there's too much money in it, and if you get too big, they silence you, or all of a sudden they
yeah,
find porn on your computer, and you're like, what? I wasn't doing anything, and you're walking around handcuffs with a sheet over your head, But it's crazy, man. You know, talk about Dr. Kiltz. I also had Dr. I'm not doctor. He should be a doctor. But Kevin Donaldson's also retired New Jersey cop that has he wrote a book called Man, You're Crazy. And anyways, it talks about, I was able to bring the two-headed monster together. I got Dr. Kills talking about diet, nutrition, and how, therapeutic it is and how you can heal. And then I got this guy that suffered from a lot of stuff and has a podcast that he does to help cops. And now it's like these two worlds are merging together because he's understanding through my story how you can get better thinking. We have a super high rate of suicide in our profession. It's getting worse. Guys aren't able to handle the stress or the afterlife of it. They don't know what to do. And this is just one way to, obviously help them, through these different things I'm doing. If I next year I get Dr. Baker out there and we all, have a big steak eating contest or something like that, or something, I just think the guys need to hear from a different voice because they've only heard their city doctors or county doctors that are all part of the networks that is paid for through health insurance. I've been riding 5 years without health insurance, and it's glorious. Glorious. You know why? Because I don't need it. Yeah. I pay cash once in a while for a little procedure here, if I have to go get a CAT score, $100, little things like that. But I save money, put that money aside. People can't, I don't know, this insurance thing, they'll still bill you. You're not getting away. So what are you worried about? For me to cover my family after I retire would be $2,000 a month.
That's wild.
That's
That's
a freaking,
crazy. So
that's a
that's a
cow.
mortgage. That's a mortgage
That-
right there.
That's a mortgage, a cow, whatever way you want to look at it. I'm like, you guys are insane. Well, I got to keep my
Yeah.
prescriptions low. Well, why are you taking prescriptions? Well, because I'm fat. Well, let's work on the fat guys. But
Yeah. We
easy way out's the way we do it here. So
the hospital should be for what it's designed, right? It should be for emergencies, broken arms, like actual, like, in the moment injuries versus this is all lifestyle. I was just on the podcast yesterday. I was talking about it. Um, US government spends $4.5 trillion on healthcare. $4.5 trillion on healthcare. What? Like, this is just so crazy. And this is all preventative stuff. Type
yeah,
type 2 diabetes.
where's that
Yeah.
money coming from? Oh yeah, us. You know,
Yeah.
it's
And I
crazy.
I, I want to talk more about cops and campers and can you give some listeners background about the program and also could you start it off with the thin blue line flag story? Because I think this is where it kind of jumps off.
Well, I'll go real fast with this part of it. I am also the son of a police officer. My mom was a homicide sergeant in Miami for 30 years. She's actually featured in the show Griselda on Netflix that was last January that came out. Her character is June Hawkins that battles Sofia Vergara's character of Griselda Blanca. So here my mom's this badass cop in the 80s and 70s and stuff, but that's where my bad diet started, because she's working all the time and what's she going to listen to? The TV or the news and read the boxes that say it's good for you. So I started bad habits back then. But when I had retired in 2019 and we started travel, well, first I found a brother that was the cop. That's a crazy story through a DNA search, and he had been
I heard
camping.
this. Yeah.
So he and I camped for the first time together, and we had been interviewed on Fox and Friends, and we were on NBC Night. It was insane the amount of coverage we got in 2019 because it was a good cover, it was a good story. Two brothers, 50 years old, didn't know about each other, found each other, both cops in Florida. It was wild. So he'd been camping his whole life, RV stuff, and I never had. So I finally went camping with my big brother and learned how to do this life. So we picked up and left Florida in 2020 and been traveling the last 4 years in a travel trailer and a big dually that I'm sitting in right now, which is acting as my studio. It's pretty roomy, by the way. And we just started going around the country, and everywhere I go, I put up my thin blue line flag. I meet first responders, I meet medical people, we just shoot the shit, and hear my story and wow, that's pretty crazy. You lost 80 pounds just by changing your diet. So it was like, I was like a snake oil salesman, at the back going to town, like on tour. And get a one campground in New York, put my flag out, and they said, "You gotta take your flag down." I'm like, you're crazy. I'm not taking my flag down. So it turned into this little situation I recorded. Um, One kind of viral news came out, did an article on them trying to tell a retired cop to take down his police flag. They were going to call the cops on the cop for the cop flag. It's freaking insane, right? I mean, what world? But it was 2021 where everything bizarro world, right? So I ended up staying at the campground, stirring it up, a lot of social media coverage on it. And I got suspended from a camping group called Thousand Trails. Yeah, I'm calling you out because their policies were vague on the flag. So I get suspended 2 months, and then 4 different campgrounds in upstate New York said, bring your flag, your rig, and your family. You're staying with us. And they ended up covering the whole 2 months. So everywhere
Amazing.
I went, I was meeting local cops because they're all pro first responders. And it was just, we'd have campfire stories. And I'm like, we should just do this, go camping as us and just meet up places, meet up. Now it's taking a different, now I'm doing the other meetup, but at this time I was just regular meetup. And we'll call it Cops and Campers. There was a rally they had for me and it kind of took off. But then I didn't know what to do with it. You know, all these cops want to get together. What am I selling shirts? What's my message? Is it just camping? Everyone loves to camp and drink or whatever. And I started really diving into the mental aspect of it, how therapeutic it is to get outside, to get around each other. We all get out of that profession and we're missing the guys, we're missing the girls or the groups that we had. Especially you do it 20, 30 years, you're missing. It's like I understand when athletes retire and they're away from it, it's a big change in your life. I mean, I played 13 years of football, 1 year in college. And then when I left, it was a vacancy. It was a big, emptiness I felt. So I can imagine after a 30-year career, or being a soldier and just being around that. So this doesn't replace it 100%. You're never going to have that adrenaline dump where you both kicking down a door and getting the bad guy or something, right? But you get around each other, you shoot, you tell stories. Sometimes you tell the real bad ones you don't share a lot, you know, and that's therapy. And guys started meeting each other separately. Hey, we're going fishing next week. So all of a sudden you start having these mini groups, almost like pop-up campers, right? And it's just started taking off, and they wanted to do one again in Ithaca, New York. So we've had 3 events there. There's a documentary on YouTube we did, just a 30 minutes, just talking about what we do and why it's so beneficial for us. We've done 2 in Georgia. We got another one coming up in April 2025. Ithaca's July 2025. I'm hoping to have Dr. Kilt said he'll come back and he'll bring his tribe. So we might have a little bit more meat on the bone at this event, and really try to make this part of the therapy. Guys got to understand what they're putting in their bodies, whether it's pills and the food, and once they hear it from another voice besides the keto crazy cop that's always out there with the long hair and the beard, like it's a different voice, and I don't know, I can reach a lot of the cops man to man, but then I have that extra layer, that's why I'm trying to network with like Rivero and all these other groups that I want to push their services on my crowd because they need it. They don't understand how to go outside of their network for help. The idea of them paying cash for their own health is still, you know, foreign to them. But it's your health, dude. Why not blow, or give $450 to a practitioner that's going to follow up and really help you rather than you paying that $1,200 a month medical bill, right? I mean, it's
Yeah.
just so yeah, that's what the Cops and Campers is about. I'm hoping to have booths up one day, kind of like a keto con type of situation. Not that big. I mean, maybe one day, but I know guys in Austin want to do it. When I was there, I did a law enforcement podcast there. They camp, they want to do something like that. So I'm like, well, shoot, let's. So we went nonprofit in November. So now we're nonprofit, which
Oh,
gives us a little
nice.
bit of legitimacy and we can now
Yeah.
start collecting donations. And I collect a little bit for the last event. I spent it, on the catering, some food we had, and reservations for guys that maybe needed the help to get there. Not everyone camps, not everyone has a camper. So I don't mind sponsoring guys to come. People donate their campers to this event if we need it. We have cabins available, so there's different ways to get out to this. You don't have to stay in an RV. So we have those options. So yeah, it's really the way it's threading with the outdoors is really beneficial. And most of the retired cops and first responders are camping a lot anyways. You see them everywhere. They like to get away and just they know they're almost doing it. They don't realize why your body's telling you to get into this de-stress life, get outside of nature, look at the water, take take the time to look around, and you don't get to do that for like the first 50 years of your life, right? Just go, go, go. From the time you start school, it's non-stop, you know?
Yeah. And I think community too. It's like you're bringing community together, which I feel is more important than ever. You have a good message, and you're right. You're like, some people look at us on Instagram, and I always like contemplate sometimes, like, why the hell do I even have a podcast? Why do I post shit on Instagram or whatever? And some people might interpret that as like, oh, they're pushing the new fad. That's what they're
Right.
doing. But you also have doctors, like Kiltz, Ken Berry, Chafee, Sean Baker, like all these people that are giving Ovadia legitimacy to what we are talking about, and we live it. And our stories can impact a lot of people, but that just gives you that little piece of legitimacy of like, yeah, no, these are doctors. Like these people have stepped away from the narrative that they've been given. And I had Ovadia on my podcast, and one of the things we talked about was there's when you graduate medical school, oh sorry, no, when you go through medical school and you retire, by the time you retire, a third of everything you learned will be false. And he's like, yeah, that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. I mean,
It's
I
nuts.
my police career, I went up and down on my opinion on drugs, and a lot of it was I just thought, well, it's illegal. They say it's illegal, and then you start back, you start looking through the history of stuff and why is this illegal, but this isn't, why is it this shut down, but these places are open, Taco Bell's open, but you can't go to a local pizzeria because, you know, so you realize it's a money game,
Yeah.
and I don't ever regret my police career because I got in it to help people, and that's all I ever did. I didn't get the joy off arresting people. Yeah, it was a bad guy that did something bad. Oh yeah, that was like winning the Super Bowl catching those guys. But the day-to-day stuff we dealt with, the trauma that I'm talking about is domestics, the car accidents that people on, oh, drinking and driving. You know how much medications people are driving around on that never get tested on? They're all DUI out there. It doesn't mean everyone's wasted, but they're all under the influence of something, and you see it like that on those numbers, and you're just, all I can say is watching my kids do the ketovore way of eating. Oh my God, you guys want to have I mean, knock on wood, my kids are well um, adjusted and they're stable. They don't have these up and down emotional things that a lot of kids go through that I didn't know. I was no expert. I'm sure I had my moments too, but I see it. We're around a lot of homeschool kids, we're around a lot of public school kids, and we see it, and it's just going to make them better human beings. And you got to think about it. If you're going to change your diet, you got to do the whole family, guys. I mean, it's you trying to do it yourself, but still let your family eat poison. Come on, and people don't understand. You really got to explain it to them. Watch The Magic Pill. Watch Fat Fiction. Watch Fat. All these other movies that are slowly coming out. Watch how the industry has railroaded us into being sick to profit from it, and then take it personal, and then they use that to empower you. It's just, that's what I'm doing. I mean, they ain't getting
Yeah.
me. They got me for 50 years. You made me sick. You poison. It's poison. Everything. It's crazy. Toothpaste. I mean, my wife's crazy. She'll look at everything. She's like, oh my God, we have clay toothpaste, which also is good for taking out. If you get bit by mosquitoes, put a little clay toothpaste on there. It draws out the freaking stuff. You don't have to be using the chemicals all the time. This is all stuff
Mm.
I've learned because of my
Yeah,
wacky
yeah.
wife. She's the same wacky wife had me sell the house and let's get a truck and trailer, travel the world. But she saved my life, so I can't argue with her.
Yeah, and we live this lifestyle, modern lifestyle. It's little changes that you could do. It doesn't have to be super drastic. Like I got rid of I use Everyman Jack now. I think that's what it's called. Everyman Jack deodorant has no aluminum. I use a toothpaste without fluoride now.
Right.
Do I still have like cleaning chemicals? Like I looked at it's so funny. I looked at the other day. I'm like, I have like cleaning chemicals of like different things that I'm like, this is probably not the best cleaning chemical in the world. And slowly I've been like looking into getting different other things. And like I changed the way like my laundry. I don't use Tide anymore. I use like an organic thing for my laundry. So it's small changes. There could be. I mean, a little financially, they're a little bit extra, but I'm fine with that if that's gonna keep me healthy. But I want to go back to this too. I mean, I this literally has come up in almost like the past three podcasts was like I don't have any kids. I can't imagine like trying to navigate kids, through life like a carnivore, ketovore with just the landscape of food. I mean, you guys homeschool, they're with you more of the time, but going out, like, is that like a big issue?
We don't we don't go out in celebration anymore for stuff. We'll grill out, you know.
Mm,
Um, but if it's like a birthday and my mom, we're up in Tennessee to see my mom, we'll go out, but we'll just go to a high-end steak restaurant, and yeah, if they have potatoes and let's say peas and carrots on the side of the plate, my kids would eat that, but they already know they're going to get a steak or pork chop. They don't mess with chicken. Yes. I mean, they will if they have to, but they're already red-blooded beasts, they're little carnivores. Their body's craving it. And they're smart as heck, man. They're so much smarter than I ever was because they're allowed to live free in their minds. They're not part of this system, right? You gotta learn 5, 6 things a day in each class, and you got this. My kids just love math and science, just run with it, kids. Run with it. We can pick up the other stuff along the way, depending on what you want to do in life, and the benefits of homeschooling. I know no one, a lot of people can't do it. We did it by accident. My wife was already staying at home because of a second child, and we pulled him out in 2018 out of first grade, and it was the best decision we ever made because for him, he's a little man, little warrior that needs to be active, that needs to run around, and needs to eat a good, real food diet. Like we're out here in Cape Vincent, he's swimming every day, and I'm seeing a 12-year-old that's ripped, you know, and I was like that up till about 11, and then the processed food got me, and, football, hey, you got to gain weight on, keep eating, get fatter, get fatter. So seeing these kids, and then they're an influence on other kids. They're like, "Why are you eating pork rinds, Killian?" Ah, because Doritos is really bad for you. And he doesn't preach to them. He's like, plus these are more filling. I don't have to eat as many. And then the kids are like, "Mom, can I get pork rinds like Killian?" And that's maybe I need them to have a little kids podcast talking keto or stuff. We can call it
Dude,
keto kids.
to be honest, that would be a great idea to have that. Cause I think that's because we talk about people need a face, to
Yeah,
hear a story, and that's how people connect. Like, dude, imagine your kids having a YouTube short that goes like crazy because they're eating chicharrones.
yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah.
it.
So,
And kids will watch other kids, and yeah, I'm thinking about it, but you also don't want to exploit your kids and put them out there either. And that cop side of me is also like, you
yeah,
know. But
but
no, the message that they could actually reach an audience like I can. I have my police first responder side of things, and they got every kid out there, and they won't, of course they'll be pushed down because they're not promoting, candy and all this other stuff. But
yeah, but it's okay to do the TikTok dances,
oh yeah,
and that's great. But like, you want to talk about kids helping kids, like, and it's like, oh wait, hold on, what are these kids talking about? But that's something that's a fear of mine because eventually I want to have kids, and
yeah.
not a fear, but it's just I know it's going to be an obstacle. I know it's going to be hard when you're going to have to educate kids, and if they do go to school, how are they interacting at school? What's the food look like? I have it in the back of my head like, man, I'm gonna have to send my kids with something. Like a
We
lot of
did.
ground, a
We
lot of ground beef.
Or maybe the goal at that point is your kids don't have to go to school and they can be like what Grace to just go to 2 hours a day of AI school and become a master of your profession and the rest of your day is open. I
Yeah.
mean, this whole ideology of having to go to school 6, 7 hours a day is still a new thing. The last since the Rockefellers got in control of our school system years ago. So it's only last 100 years. Before that,
Yeah.
our kids learned with us. They worked with us, and what's the end game? To go get your kid a degree that owes all this money to go work corporate for somebody else and they're paying. I mean, what's the end game in this big picture of life? Because I looked at it questioning my own route. My life would have been big house, jet skis, boats, kids go to college, paying for their weddings, helping them out, and probably dying by the time I was 68 years old of a heart attack. That was going to be my life,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
physically that's what's happening all the time. So yeah, I mean, don't be scared to change it. The kids we're aggressive with now. I mean, when they were young, they were breastfed. We were seeing when my wife was eating gluten, how it affected my first kid. So she knocked out gluten, and you know what? She felt great. She didn't know she had an issue with gluten. So there's things you can do along you learn with your kids, but they they can't eat the shit if you don't have it in the house. And if you go to parties, bring your own food. It's food, not poison, right? They have poison. You wouldn't take your kid to a party and let them just sniff cocaine or do a freaking shot of whiskey, right? Well, you got to look at the food that they're going to is the same way because it is.
Yeah.
It's just a longer death. It takes longer. That's all. And it's addictive. So now you're setting the standard for the rest of this kid's life. He's going to go to a pizza party at the office, and guess what he's going to have? Slice of pizza and a slice of cake every Friday. You know what I'm saying? And then
Yeah,
it's just snowballs, man. So if you get a hold of him in the beginning, yeah, he may have that slice of pizza and that cake, but he's gonna feel like shit. And
that's
he's
a
gonna be
big
like,
one.
man,
I'm not
I
doing
maybe
that
I should
again.
just had maybe I should have just had two bites and not eat the whole thing.
Yeah.
And that's what I'll do. I'll sample a little bit now, and I'm like, oh God, it's so sweet. I can't imagine I used to eat this. That's what because the taste buds change when you get off of that stuff. So
Yeah, that's a big I love and I like that too. And I tell this to myself sometimes if I do allow myself an indulgence, a slice of pizza or whatever, like it's life, I'm about to go to Japan and like I'm gonna have some things that are not carnivore in Japan. Just
right.
it's gonna happen. But I know when I do have those things, I feel like shit. So like to me, it's like I know this diet works when I go to this stuff I used to have all the time and I would never feel crappy. It's just I didn't realize how bad I felt. It was just the norm for me. But when you go to this way and you have something that's highly processed, super starchy, very heavy carbs, you're like, oh my God, did I drink last night? Like, am I hungover? I ate pizza.
I I find one of the things is all the injuries, like you're talking about doing all your marathons and all that stuff. When I eat like that, whatever was my nagging thing that I've had from playing sports for 50 something years, right? My left knee would act up. It might be my back, I had back surgery when I was 24, another probably unnecessary surgery where they went in and took out some of my L4 disc. And but that'll act up. It won't be necessarily I feel hungover that my guts are wrecked. I mean, my gut might be a wreck also, depending on what I was eating, right? But yeah, it just inflammation, man. It kicks in those sensitive areas right off the bat, and I can feel it. And it makes me realize how inflamed I was before when you're just adding to the collection of inflammation throughout your body. But you feel a
Hmm.
lot more when you lay off that stuff and you dabble again. It's pretty brutal.
And I know you kind of mentioned this earlier, and it's something I want to kind of end with too. Of
Okay.
like how is it like seeing your mom being
Uh,
portrayed on Netflix, like across all, I mean, because Griselda's like it was a big show.
yeah. Well, my mom was in People magazine. How many guys can say, "Oh, my mom was in People magazine," right? I mean, it's insane. We got
You've had a cool life, man. You've had some different things. You've been in the news for a bunch of different stuff.
and not even trying. The brother thing that went viral, and then a month later, after I found the brother, we got a call. I got a call from Doug Myra, who's one of the executive producers of Narcos, and they were like, "Hey," I'm like, "Wow, he must have talked to me about Dave and hey, we're gonna be, I don't know, maybe they're doing a cop show, right?" So I thought they were gonna ask me to be part of a cop show, tell my story or something. They're like, "We want to talk to your mom." I'm like, the hero mom again, the one that solved all those homicides. Okay. Still, I got them in touch and they were like, yeah, we're going to do Miami Narcos. And they sent people out to talk to her. And then COVID hit. So everything kind of got pushed back. Dave and I even auditioned for Amazing Race. And we were going to fly out December of 2019 for casting. They had selected us for season like 33 or 34.
Oh,
And
cool.
then COVID hit and everything got shut down. And then that summer they're flipping and burning police cars. I'm like, Dave, I don't think we're getting that call. So, anyways, all this happened. They want to do Miami Narcos, and then I think it was 2023. The actress Juliana Martinez, who's playing my mom, called my mom. They went over the script together because she's Colombian, my mom's Cuban. They say things differently, and then I got to talk to Juliana about being the son of a cop like that. So they actually have one scene with me going to baseball practice when I'm arguing with my mom in the car and I'm telling her about a gun in the glove box, and they got some actor playing me. And I remember the producers were like, "So Eric, what were you doing at 14, 13?" I was like, "You really want to know what I was doing at 14? You don't want to know what I was doing at 14."
Can't show that.
I was discovering life. They're like, besides that, I'm like, oh, I played football, baseball, so they threw that in there. But yeah, to see there's some things, mannerisms that Juliana nailed on my mom that was kind of wow. Like some of the serious tones she'd have reminded me of my mom, the way my mom could just make me to the core feel like shit. Whether it's disappointment, like, oh, you let me down or something like that. But she did a great job. It was supposed to be 10 episodes. They only did 6. I think Sophia's schedule is really busy, and she was the superstar of the film. So she had some influence. But yeah, My mom's story is amazing. We're talking about maybe writing a book. I mean, she was a hostage negotiator for 15 years. I mean, they could just do June Hawkins, a hostage negotiator show, and she's got stories. I mean, stories upon stories, and her life in itself, being a female in the 70s as a cop, a Spanish female, I mean, it's it's crazy, and then like you said, to see her on TV and then, we're sitting around and yeah, man, I was actually 8 to 9 years old when my mom was doing that. I wasn't a teenager.
Mm.
So I had no idea. I'm going to YMCA after school programs, playing, knock hockey and stuff. And she's out there seeing dead bodies at 29, 30 years old, you know. And that's a whole other issue about trauma. My mom's got it, but you can't talk to her about it. So, it's
Mhm.
one of those, it's like talking to an old seasoned veteran, from like Vietnam. You just can't bring it up.
Yeah.
It just is what it is, and it's sad because it's probably going to be festered in her, or and eventually lead to her death because they can't get out of their bodies. All that stress. They can't. It's hard for that older generation to talk about stuff. We talk about it. We cry about it. We're more therapeutic with it, and we understand that for mental health, or for mental wellness, that you got to get these demons and some of the stuff off your list, because it'll eat you up, and I see it
Yeah.
with all my mom's generation of cops. They all got that hidden, you know, they don't want to say that the stuff they saw it was unfair in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
So
I bet you
hmm.
didn't get away with much in the house.
No, no, no. She used to get me on don't watch TV, right? And I'd turn it off, of course, when she pulled in. Every kid does that. No, she won't catch me. I'll start washing dishes. And she'd walk in and feel the heat on the TV,
Oh,
put her
that's
hand
how
on
she
the
get
back.
the big back of the TV.
Yeah. Ah. And she got me a couple other times. I got caught skipping school because neighbors ratted us out. But she was the type that would say, I'm not going to give you a curfew until you prove to me you need one. But she also knew all the friends I hung out with because she would do background checks on my friends' parents. She didn't tell me that, but I found this out later. All those kids had curfews. So if they had to be in at 11, what am I going to do? Oh, I
Right.
guess I'm going home. Oh, good thing you don't have a curfew. See, I trust you. But she'd do those mind games, allow me a little bit of responsibility. And then, and it was her and I, my grandmother. I mean, my dad's 5 marriages, my mom 3 marriages. You guys want to go down a deep dive of trauma? Talk about having 8 marriages and 10 different schools you went to before you got to high school.
Wow.
Craziness. And you wonder why I was stuffing my mouth with Oreos, right? So
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about
trauma's no
earlier, like
joke.
that's how people feel. I mean, I'm case in point of I have to catch myself, and that's why I was so big when I was younger. Lost a
Yeah,
ton of weight, regained a lot of the weight at during stressful times in my life.
yeah.
Uh, but yeah, going to drinking alcohol, fast food, and because it feels good at the moment and the time, but that's the way that you cope with it. But high stress jobs, life is stressful, but we gotta you know get active, talk about things, eat right, eat steaks, lift weights. Like that's we do that, we're fine.
Go to more carnivore get-togethers.
Carnivore
Go to
get-togethers.
go to all those meetups. There's one in your town. I mean, I know locally on Facebook, there's one I saw the other day. I was looking at some in Jacksonville, Florida, and there's a meetup group in Jacksonville. So get involved with those groups, man, because that's
Yeah,
just going to reinforce. And you're going to lose some people in this life, man. I mean, not totally, but there's people who aren't going to want to hang with you as much because they're going to feel nervous about eating around you. It's weird how that starts to happen,
yeah.
but you're the one eating the bad stuff, feeling bad, but I make you feel bad. So now we're not part of the circle. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I mean that sometimes you gotta cut people out.
Yeah.
What's coming up next for you? Anything big coming up?
Oof. I'm going to be I guess in August 22nd, 23rd, I'll be in Nashville. I guess Amanda Deckler's doing a little get together there. I think Dr. Barry's going to be part of that little group. I'm going there,
Cool.
but the only thing I got come up is a low carb event in Boca, which is the Society of Metabolic Health group. And
Yeah,
it's a smaller group, but it's a fantastic event over 3 days. I'll be there. I usually work the door, keep the vegans
yeah,
out. And
yeah.
then
Anybody comes in, you muff them.
And then after that, I'm working on the Cops and Campers event in April, and then obviously in July. And then if I can get Texas and Utah want something, I got to figure out how I'm going to fit it in. And plus, I got to travel there, right? I got to bring a rig and a
Yeah.
family. So there's a lot of moving parts with this, mission I'm trying to do. But I mean, sure beats handling calls and doing, all those old reports I used to do. I'm doing something I'm passionate, and that's the key. You got to do something you really love, man, because it's
Hmm.
hard out there. If you're doing time, a 20-year sentence at a job, do it and get out. Don't be scared to change careers because I mean, look at what I'm doing. I mean, I'm upside down compared to what my old life was. I mean, it's crazy, and I love every minute of it. I'm spending time with my kids a lot, growing up with them at times, learning with them. I mean, I've seen so many. We saw 5 Great Lakes in 2021, swam in them. I don't even know what a Great Lake was being from Miami. I saw the Atlantic and the Gulf. That was it.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing, this adventure, when you set yourself free and you get out of the box, and you can still be in it, keep one foot in, keep one foot out, and that life, you need it. It's a tool, but it doesn't have to suck you up and make you freaking so metabolically sick and, have it be a death sentence, you know.
Yeah. And I'm gonna put you gotta send me a link for donation too, so we can put that in the show notes. People can
It's on
donate. Yeah.
copsandcampers.com. If you go there, there's a link there. You can donate. Any suggestions too? There's people that want to host events. We do small ones too. We can do small meetups where we have only 10 people there, that are
Yeah,
looking to
yeah.
camp. And some of those guys need more therapy. And it's not just mental therapy. They need the metabolic help, because the medication's got them slowed down. It's got them thinking dull. They're not dumb, but dull, once you start getting them off of that. I mean, we got my father-in-law off of freaking insulin within a week after he started keto. So, I mean, the shit works, people. I mean,
Yeah.
I couldn't believe it until I saw it before my own eyes and I saw my own transformation and I started helping, my buddy Ricky lost 50 pounds, started calling me Keto 50 for the 50 and 50 pounds. And look at us now, 5 years later, right? It's crazy. I mean, guys like you, I'm going to keto con events. I'm like, who is this guy?
Yeah. I
So,
mean, like I said, you literally, I did not, this is my first time and I never went to any of these events. You're literally like, I walked in, I was like, I'm not going to really know anybody. This is going to be weird. You're the first person I saw. And I was just like, oh,
uh,
Tony, come here. Let's take a picture. Come on.
isn't that awesome, man? I love that. And wait
Yeah.
till the next time, dude. You'll be all of a sudden you won't even get to the door yet. You'll be getting stopped outside, man. They'll be like, "Oh, Tony."
Maybe we'll see.
All right, man.
I'll put everything in the show notes. Keto 50, Cops with Campers. Guys, check it out. It's awesome. And then I'm gonna try to make one of these events one of these days. A city boy though. I need a cabin.
You need a cabin. All
I
right,
gotta
yeah.
get me a cabin. I don't know if I can get an RV.
Well, an RV, you don't have to tow it. You just walk in, they give you the keys, you walk in, it's like a house. You don't need, we can get you a nice one.
Oh, I was talking
You
about
can even,
driving an
oh,
RV.
you
I'm
want to
like, dude,
drive.
no,
You
I
don't have,
didn't know. I thought I had to go
no,
get
you could,
one.
no, you pull up at the campground. We give you a set of keys and we show you how to, use the freaking awning and little things like you don't
Yeah,
have to worry about the poop or all that stuff because you're not going to be there long enough to worry about that.
glamping. That's me.
Glamp, that is you. We got glamping tents. There's a whole subcategory for you city folks. Don't worry. We'll
Yeah.
get.
Well, Eric, thanks again
All
for
right,
coming
brother.
on to the show. It's always good to see you, and I can't wait to meet up with you again.
We will, man. All right, brother.
All right, thanks for everybody listening. The Primal Foundations podcast.